The empty street and a silent Enga night was 3 in the morning. The streets of Los Angeles were quiet, still wrapped in the calm of the night. No sound of cars, no people walking. Even the usual sirens were missing. Then suddenly, a security guard at a gas station noticed something strange. A sleek black car was parked right near the edge of the road, close to a closed diner. The engine was off, the headlights were dim, but the car door was open. He walked closer and saw something that made his heart skip a beat. It was Keanu Reeves's car, the same car fans had seen him drive in interviews, the same car he had once mentioned he never let anyone else drive. But now, there was no one inside, no driver, no keys, just an open door, and a silence that felt heavy. News spread fast. Within 30 minutes, a few paparazzi showed up, flashing their cameras. Police arrived next, asking questions, checking the car. They looked inside the trunk, under the seats, but there was nothing, no sign of a struggle, no message, no clue. It was like Keanu had vanished. People online went wild. Some said he had gone off the grid. Others thought he might have been kidnapped. A few even joked that maybe he had become John Wick for real. But to those who knew him well, this was no joke. Keanu was quiet, yes, but he was never careless. And he never disappeared without telling someone. Earlier that day, he had filmed a small documentary with a young girl battling cancer. The footage had gone viral. Keanu had held her hand, listened to her story, and even shed a tear. But after that shoot ended, no one saw him again. His team tried calling him. His assistant, Maria, said he had left the set in good spirits. He smiled at me, she said, and told me he was going for a short drive. He didn't say where. He didn't say why. Hours passed. The sun began to rise. Still no word from Keanu. Police started checking nearby hospitals. Maybe he had fainted. Maybe someone had taken him in. But nothing. Not a single record of him that night. Finally, they looked at CCTV footage from the diner near where the car was found. The footage showed Keanu stepping out of the car at 2:47 a.m. He was wearing a simple black hoodie and jeans. He looked around slowly, as if searching for someone. Then, without saying anything, he walked away. No bag, no phone, just him, walking into the darkness. A police officer watching the footage leaned in and paused the screen. He's heading toward the hills, the officer said. But there's nothing up there except an old homeless camp that was shut down years ago. That one line made everyone pause. Why would a Hollywood actor, worth millions, go walking toward an abandoned place in the middle of the night? Then Maria remembered something. A week ago, Keanu had gotten a handwritten letter at his studio. She had seen him hold it tightly, staring at the paper for a long time. When she asked him who it was from, he simply said, "Someone I owe my life to." And then he folded it and placed it in his coat pocket. She never saw that letter again. But now, that memory began to feel important. Reporters stood near the car. Fans began leaving flowers on the hood. Someone placed a photo of Keanu from his younger days, taped next to a note that read, "Come back safe, we need your kindness." But Keanu was still gone. Meanwhile, deep in the hills, as birds began to chirp and the early fog rolled over the trees, a figure was sitting quietly on a wooden bench near a broken shed. It was Keanu. His eyes were fixed on something in the distance. He looked tired, not from walking, but from remembering. And in his hand, folded carefully, was that same handwritten letter, the story behind the letter, the journey that brought him there, and the person he was about to meet would shock the world. The letter from the past. The bench was old, wood cracked and gray from years of sun and rain. The shed behind it had no roof, just broken walls and scattered tools no one had touched in years. But Keanu didn't care about the place. His mind was far away. His fingers slowly unfolded the letter. The paper was soft now, worn from being opened and closed too many times. He read it again, like he had done every day since it arrived. "Dear Keanu," it began. "I don't know if you remember me. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But you changed my life when I was 16. And now, before I go, I need to see you. One last time." There was no name, no address, just a location written at the bottom. It was this place, this exact spot in the hills. Keanu closed his eyes. His mind flashed back to the year 1991. He had just finished filming a small indie movie and was still unknown to the world. One night, after leaving a local theater, he saw a girl sitting on the steps of a shelter. She looked cold and scared. He walked past her, then stopped. Something in her eyes made him turn back. He remembered offering her his jacket. She had refused at first, but he insisted. They spoke for a while. She told him she had run away from home. Her stepfather had hurt her. Her mother didn't believe her. She had no money, no friends, no plan. Keanu didn't ask too many questions. He just listened. And when it started to rain, he brought her some hot soup from the diner nearby. He never saw her again after that night. She had vanished the next morning. The only thing left behind was his jacket, folded neatly on the bench, with a note inside it that simply said, "Thank you for treating me like I mattered." Now, 34 years later, someone had written to him and brought him back to that same bench. A rustling sound pulled Keanu from his memory. He turned. Someone was walking toward him, a woman, thin, with silver streaks in her hair and a walking stick. She wore a long coat and had eyes that seemed to carry the weight of every year she had lived. Keanu stood up, unsure. She looked at him, then smiled softly. "You waited," she said. He blinked. Are you the one who wrote the letter?" She nodded. "I never forgot that night. The way you treated me, like I was human, it saved me. I thought of ending my life that week, but you gave me hope." Keanu sat down slowly. His voice was soft. "What happened to you after that?" She looked at the trees around them. "Life happened. I got into a women's shelter, found people who helped me. I cleaned houses for years, raised 2 kids, but I never forgot your face. When I saw you in a movie one day, I almost dropped the plate I was washing." They both chuckled quietly. Then silence returned, thick with emotion. "Why now?" he asked. "Why reach out after all this time?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I have cancer, not much time left. But before I go, I needed to thank you, not just for that night, but for what it meant. I tell my children all the time, when you meet someone kind, you never forget." Keanu looked down, struggling to speak. "I don't even know what to say." "You already said it," she whispered. "When you gave me soup instead of questions. When you saw me, not my pain." A single tear rolled down Keanu's cheek. He reached out and gently held her hand. It was frail, but it gripped his tightly. They sat together as the morning sun began to shine through the mist. Birds flew above. The world below still didn't know where he was. But in that moment, Keanu felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. Back in the city, the internet buzzed with theories. His agent was panicking. His fans were praying. But none of them knew the truth, that Keanu had gone to honor a memory and ended up finding something even deeper. The woman looked at him again. "I never got to say my real name that night. It's Evelyn." Keanu smiled. "I'm glad I finally get to know it." "There's something else," she said, reaching into her coat pocket. "I want you to meet someone." Keanu's brow furrowed. "Who, my son?" she said. "He's just down the path, and he's been waiting to meet you his whole life." Keanu's heart skipped. He looked at Evelyn, but she didn't say more. Instead, she stood up and pointed toward a narrow trail hidden behind some trees. What Keanu found at the end of that path would leave him completely speechless. The boy with the same eyes. Keanu followed the trail slowly. The morning light was filtering through the leaves, casting golden shadows on the dirt path. His heart was beating louder than the sound of birds around him. Every step felt heavy, filled with questions he didn't yet know how to ask. Behind him, Evelyn stayed seated on the old bench. She didn't say anything more. She just smiled, her eyes soft, and let him go. As he walked farther, the trees opened up into a small clearing. There, sitting quietly on a log, was a young man, maybe in his early 30s. He wore a gray hoodie, jeans, and worn-out sneakers. His head was down, looking at something in his hands, a tiny, crumpled photo. Keanu stepped closer. A twig snapped beneath his foot. The man looked up. Their eyes met, and Keanu froze. Those eyes, they were his eyes, the same gentle shape, the same deep brown shade. the same quiet sadness mixed with strength. The young man stood slowly, unsure, as if trying to make sense of the moment. He looked nervous. His fingers gripped the photo tightly. "You're Keanu," he said quietly. Keanu nodded. "And you're David," the young man said. "My name's David." They stood in silence, just a few feet apart. The air between them felt full, like it was holding something too big to say out loud. "Your mother," Keanu began, his voice shaking. "She said you've been waiting to meet me." David looked down, then held out the photo. "She told me about you when I turned 18. She said there was a man who changed her life before I was born, a kind stranger. She never forgot you. When she got sick, she asked if I'd write the letter. So I did." Keanu took the photo gently from his hands. It was an old Polaroid, faded and soft around the edges. It showed Evelyn when she was young, sitting on the same bench, wearing his jacket. On the back, someone had written, "March 1991. He gave me warmth without knowing my story." Keanu's eyes filled with tears. "I never knew she had this. She kept it in a box of important things," David said. "Her wedding ring, our baby pictures, and this photo. She told me about that night," Keanu whispered. "But she never said she was pregnant. She didn't know yet." David replied. Keanu looked at him again, this time with different eyes. Not the eyes of a stranger, but the eyes of someone who felt something deep, something almost impossible to name. "You think I'm your father?" Keanu asked softly. David shrugged. "I don't know. Mom always said it didn't matter. She said what mattered was what you gave her: dignity, hope. But I always wondered." Keanu sat on the edge of a rock. He ran his hand through his hair, trying to breathe. He didn't know what to feel. This was too much, too fast. But something inside him, something honest and quiet, told him it didn't matter whether blood connected them or not. What mattered was the bond he felt now. A deep pull, a strange warmth. David sat next to him. "I'm not asking for anything," David said. "I didn't come here to get money or fame. I just wanted to meet you, to see who you really were." Keanu nodded slowly. "Thank you for that." They sat in silence for a while. Birds chirped. Wind moved gently through the trees. In the distance, Evelyn coughed softly. "She doesn't have long, does she?" Keanu asked. David shook his head. "A few weeks, maybe. The doctors said it's spreading fast." Keanu felt something tighten in his chest, regret, sorrow, but also a strange sense of purpose. Like the universe had called him here, not just to remember, but to make peace, to heal something broken long ago. He stood up. "Let's go back to her." As they walked side by side, Keanu glanced at David again, and he smiled. Not the smile of a movie star, not the smile fans knew, but the smile of a man who had just discovered a hidden part of himself and accepted it completely. They reached the bench. Evelyn looked up and saw them walking together. She didn't speak. She just held out both hands, and for the first time in over 30 years, the three of them sat together. No cameras, no noise, no past regrets. Just three lives, connected by a single night, finally finding their way back to each other. But deep in the city, someone else had also seen the footage of Keanu's abandoned car. Someone from Evelyn's past, and they were already making their way toward the hills, with a secret that would change everything once again. A shadow from the past. Evelyn sat quietly between Keanu and David. Her hands rested on their arms as if trying to absorb every bit of warmth. The moment felt sacred, a kind of peace none of them had known before. Birds chirped, wind rustled the leaves. It was calm, until a branch cracked in the distance. Keanu looked up first. David turned next. Evelyn didn't move. A tall man stepped through the trees. His face was thin, tired, but there was something sharp in his eyes. He wore a worn leather jacket and boots caked with mud. His stare locked onto Evelyn like he had been searching for her a long time. Keanu stood. Something about the man felt wrong. "Evelyn," the man said, "you still come here after all these years?" Her body tensed. "I know that voice," she whispered. David stepped in front of her. "Who are you?" The man smiled, but it wasn't kind. "I'm someone your mother hoped she'd never see again." Keanu moved closer to Evelyn. "Who is he?" She swallowed hard. "His name is Robert. My stepfather. David's eyes widened. The one who. She nodded. Robert tilted his head. So the famous Keanu Reeves is now playing hero in real life too. What a touching little reunion. Keanu didn't move. What do you want? Closure, Robert said. I spent years thinking she might speak up, tell the world lies, ruin my life. But she stayed. Silent. I always wondered why. Now I see. She buried it deep. Found someone else to lean on. And look, now she's dying. Perfect timing. David clenched his fists. You shouldn't be here. Why not? Robert said. This place used to be mine. I built that shed. My father left it to me. You lost the right to this place, Evelyn said, her voice shaking. The night you put fear in my heart and forced me to run. Robert smirked. Fear? You were always dramatic. Keanu stepped forward. Enough. If you came here to threaten her, you'll have to go through me. Robert's smile faded. He looked at Keanu again, this time slower, like he was trying to figure something out. You were the one who helped her, weren't you? The kind stranger. The jacket boy. Yes, Keanu said firmly. And if I had known back then what she was running from, I would have done more. Robert's eyes narrowed. Well, it's too late for all that. He reached into his jacket pocket. David moved quickly, stepping in front of his mother, but Robert didn't pull out a weapon. Instead, he tossed something onto the ground. A piece of paper, yellowed with age. What is that? Keanu asked. A letter, Robert said. Written by her, to me, years ago, before she disappeared. Evelyn gasped. David picked up the letter and opened it. His hands shook as he read aloud. Robert, I'm leaving. Not because I want to destroy you, but because I need to save myself. I hope someday you'll understand. I will not be afraid anymore. I deserve a life without shadows. Robert stepped back. I kept that letter. For years, never showed anyone, never told the cops. I figured if she wanted freedom, she'd take it. But now, seeing you all here, like a happy family, it burns. You don't get to take that from us. David said firmly. Robert looked at Keanu again. You think you're the good guy. Maybe you are. But people like me, we don't just disappear. He turned slowly, walked back into the trees, and vanished into the fog. No one spoke for a long moment. Evelyn leaned back on the bench, breathing heavy. I didn't think I'd ever have to face him again. Keanu sat beside her, gently placing a hand on her back. You were brave today. You still are. David held the letter, his fingers tightening. We should give this to someone. He shouldn't. Be free. Evelyn shook her head. No, not yet. This is the first time I've spoken my truth out loud. That's enough for today. Keanu looked around. The quiet had returned. But something inside him had changed. Evelyn wasn't just a memory from a kind night long ago. She was a survivor. And David wasn't just a curious young man with similar eyes. He was strength in human form. You should come with me, Keanu said gently. Both of you. Just for a few days. Let me take care of you. Somewhere peaceful, away from all this. Evelyn smiled weakly. That's kind of you, but please. Keanu added, this time don't run. She looked at David, then nodded. Double quotes okay. As they made their way down the hill, back toward the city, none of them saw the figure still watching from behind the trees. Robert, his face blank, his eyes cold. He wasn't done yet. And what he planned next could destroy everything Keanu had just begun to build. The quiet before the fire. Keanu drove slowly through the mountain road, with Evelyn resting in the back seat and David beside her. The silence inside the car felt different now. Not the silence of fear or confusion, but one filled with emotion that words couldn't carry. The air was warm. The sky above was soft with gold, and for the first time in years, Evelyn looked peaceful. Keanu had brought them to a small private retreat hidden in the hills of Malibu, a quiet place where birds flew low, and the only sound at night was the rustle of trees. It belonged to a friend of his, a retired writer who owed Keanu a favor. The cottage had no paparazzi, no noise, no questions. Just peace. Evelyn stayed in the sunroom most of the day, reading quietly or watching the wind blow through the grass. David helped her walk when she was tired. And Keanu, he cooked for them. Simple food, soups, toast, warm tea. He hadn't done That for anyone in years. But now, it felt like second nature. At night, they would sit by the fire pit outside, the stars above them, stories floating in the air. Evelyn talked about her childhood before things went wrong. David shared memories of his mother's strength. And Keanu, for once, opened up about his own wounds, about the friends he lost, the heartbreaks, the loneliness fame never fixed. Each night, they healed a little more. But behind that peace, something darker was growing. Robert hadn't left the hills. He had followed them, slowly, carefully, watching from a distance, hiding in shadows. He knew the area well, better than they did. He had found an old trail near the retreat. And now, night after night, he got closer. On the third day, Evelyn collapsed while walking with David. Keanu rushed to her side, lifting her gently. Her breathing was shallow. They took her inside and laid her on the bed. "It's time," she whispered. "Don't say that," David said, holding her hand tightly. But she smiled, no tears. "I've been given a gift. I never thought I'd see either of you again. Now look at me, resting in a cottage under the stars, with both my boys beside me." Keanu blinked. "You see me as your family? You've always been," she said softly, "even when you didn't know." Keanu nodded. He held her hand too. That night, she didn't speak again. By morning, she was gone. A note was found on her bedside table. It read, "Thank you for giving me a goodbye I never thought I'd have. Tell the world I survived. Tell them I wasn't afraid." At the end. The next day, they buried her ashes near a tree on the property. A white stone marked the spot. Keanu and David sat there for hours, talking about her, laughing through tears. Keanu felt something deep shift in him. He hadn't cried like this in years. But it wasn't just sadness. It was love, real, rooted love. The kind that binds people without needing names or labels. "We should do something," David said that night, "for women like her. Maybe a shelter, maybe a foundation." Keanu nodded. "We will, in her name." But they didn't know Robert had been watching from the hill. He had seen the burial. He had seen them laugh. And he had snapped. To him, it wasn't a family healing. It was a family that never should have existed. A family that had replaced him. That night, as they sat inside, Keanu heard a strange tapping on the window. He went to check. Nothing. Just trees swaying. Then suddenly, a loud crash. Glass shattering in the back room. David shouted, "Someone's inside." Keanu ran. He reached the kitchen just as Robert stepped out of the shadows, a metal rod in his hand. His eyes wild. His body shaking. "You took everything," Robert said. "You think I'd let you keep it?" Keanu stepped in front of David. "This isn't the way. Evelyn is gone. This ends here." "No," Robert growled. "It ends with justice." He charged forward. But Keanu, calm and focused, moved fast. He ducked, grabbed David, and pulled him aside. Robert swung the rod, missing by inches. Keanu didn't want to fight. Not here. Not in front of David. But he had no choice. Robert attacked again, but Keanu blocked the strike, using the rod's weight against him. "I won't let you ruin her memory," Keanu said sharply. Robert stumbled, then turned to run. David grabbed a flashlight and pointed it toward him. "Stop," he shouted. Robert froze at the door, breathing hard. "You don't belong here," David said, voice steady. Robert looked at him, eyes filled with hate. "You're not even my blood." "Maybe not," David said, "but I'm more of a man than you ever were." Robert opened the door, disappearing into the night. Keanu called the police. They came quickly. Robert was found hiding near the main road. Arrested without a fight. And just like that, the storm was over. The next morning, Keanu and David sat by the tree again. The wind was calm. The air was clean. David turned to him and said, "She always said one act of kindness could change everything. I think she was right." Keanu nodded. "She changed me too." And what they decided to do next, in Evelyn's name, would become a story the world would never forget. The promise they kept. 3 months had passed since the night Robert was taken away. His name barely made the news. There were no headlines, no interviews. Keanu didn't want to give him power by putting his name in lights. Instead, he focused on something greater, Evelyn's legacy. Keanu and David worked side by side, day After day, in the beginning, they had no clear plan, just an idea, a vision built from pain, healing, and one brave woman's quiet strength. They wanted to create something that would help people like Evelyn, women who had nowhere to go, women who needed someone to say, "You matter." They named it the Evelyn House. It wasn't a big place at first, just a simple building in East Los Angeles, but it had warmth, it had food, beds, books, and counselors. Women walked in with nothing but fear and left with hope. Keanu often visited, not as a celebrity, but as a listener. He sat on folding chairs beside women in pain and never tried to fix them. He just heard them. David handled most of the day-to-day tasks, intake forms, job training programs, even organizing workshops. He had Evelyn's quiet strength and Keanu's calm focus. Together, they became the heartbeat of the place. On the day they held the official ribbon-cutting ceremony, hundreds gathered. Keanu stood in front of the crowd with David beside him. No suits, no sunglasses, just simple shirts and quiet faces. A photo of Evelyn stood on a small easel nearby, her eyes smiling at the sun. Keanu spoke softly into the mic. "This house is not just bricks and wood," he said. "It's memory, it's healing, it's proof that one moment of kindness can change the future." The crowd clapped. Some cried. Others simply nodded. One woman came forward and handed Keanu a rose. "I was in a situation like Evelyn's," she said. "This place saved me." Keanu hugged her gently. When the cameras flashed, they caught a different side of him, not the Hollywood icon, not the action star, but a man who had walked through fire with someone he once barely knew and come out stronger. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the buildings, David and Keanu sat on the front steps of the Evelyn House. They watched a young girl laugh with her mother on the sidewalk. Volunteers carried and donated clothes. A dog barked in the distance. "Do you think she sees this?" David asked. Keanu looked up at the sky. "I think she's part of it, in every laugh, in every breath." "I still don't know if I'm your son," David said softly. Keanu looked at him, then smiled. "Blood doesn't decide that," he said. "I'm here, you're here, that's what matters." David leaned back against the wall. "I never had a father growing up, but now, I don't know, you've shown me what one looks like." Keanu didn't speak. He just placed a hand on David's shoulder and gave it a firm squeeze. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. In the months that followed, the Evelyn House grew. Donations poured in. Celebrities quietly supported it without fanfare. But more importantly, women arrived and walked out stronger. One wrote a note on the message board inside the house. It read, "I came here with a broken soul. I left with a fire inside me. Thank you for reminding me that I matter." Keanu visited the message board often. He read every note. Every story. He kept Evelyn's photo near it, never letting her memory fade. One afternoon, years later, a journalist asked him in an interview, "What moment changed your life the most?" He didn't even pause. "A night in 1991, he said, "when I gave my jacket to a girl in the rain. I didn't know her story. I just knew she needed warmth. I thought that was the end of it. Turns out, it was just the beginning." The interviewer asked, "Do you think kindness is enough?" Keanu looked into the camera. "Kindness is the seed. The rest, love, strength, healing, grows from it." And so, the man whose car was found abandoned at 3 a.m. became the man who helped hundreds find shelter, not because he had to, but because he once saw a girl on a bench and chose not to walk away. His act of kindness lit a path that others now walk. And it all began with silence, a letter, and a memory that never died.